Anthony, do you want to lead this just because I'm...
Yeah, sure. So let me pull up the page. We have, do you say you go by Bob Ellis Clark?
Elvis, yeah.
Elvis.
Yeah.
Elvis. Okay.
Yeah. It's a
Okay.
middle name I added.
Yeah, there you go.
Several years ago.
Yeah, oh, yeah, added?
Yeah, through the Clackamas Circuit Court.
Oh, no kidding.
Yep.
Is that because you like the singer Elvis Presley, or?
No, it reminds me of my dad, who grew up in Tennessee and grew up during the Depression. Was also drafted into the military during the 50s, and so yeah, that's my background. And
Nice.
he was on a tobacco farm, and well, Elvis wasn't that, but Tennessee's kind of.
Oh yeah. So here's what we'll do. It's not a debate. It's we're asking you questions to find out why you should be elected to this position. So we'll ask you to one at a time just say who you are, why you're running, what you're going to bring to the district. And then we'll ask you questions about it. But the first thing we need to do is find out what your ages are going to be next week. So if you have a birthday on Saturday, what age are you going to be for the rest of the month?
68.
68, okay. Rob?
51.
I'm sorry, you faded out there.
51.
51, all right. I'm 56. Level the playing field.
Yeah.
Okay, so Rob, why don't we have you go first and give us your pitch.
The reason I'm running is I want to get Oregon back to taking care of its residents. Our focus hasn't been on listening to the people, even the people in our district, as far as taxes, the homeless, the over push for going green on everything, instead of worrying about taking care of our roads and our security. The focus hasn't been, most people are like, you know what, I want my government to leave me alone. Let me go do my job, live my life, take care of my kids, and retire. I don't want the government worrying about what I'm doing in my house or my yard or how many trees I have. So it's about having the government listen to the people they serve, and that people then remember that we serve people. When I get elected, it's not going to be, oh, I'm a representative, I'm not going to listen to you anymore. It's no, I'm going to listen to what you say, and I'm going to try and help you out with it. So that's my pitch.
All right, and tell us what you do now for a living.
I'm a business development manager for a security company.
Is that home security or commercial security?
It's commercial.
Commercial. How's business been over the past 2 years?
My business has been awesome just because I go out and meet people, make things happen for them. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I do it. I don't give you false hope, and I tell you what it's going to cost you. So my business has been great.
And have you run for office before?
I have.
I'm sorry?
I ran for U.S. Congress back in 2018.
Okay.
You guys interviewed me then, and you endorsed me saying, if you had to vote Republican, you'd vote for me. So I that as a markup, so.
Yeah, I thought I remembered your name. That's right. Okay.
A key quote,
Yeah, great. Okay. Bob?
Okay, I'm running because the Oregon Taxpayer Association gave me a call a couple days before the filing deadline, and at that point nobody had filed a run on the fiscal conservative side, I would say, and so I was encouraged to file. And I've always been interested in government since I was a high school student at Tigard High, and I followed that through in my professional career too, being an economist for Bonneville Power Administration and the Oregon Public Utility Commission.
Which first? Did you work for BPA or for?
Oh, BPA is the bulk of my professional career.
How long were you there?
25 years.
And then you retired from there and went to work for the state?
Yeah, they had offered an early retirement package, and I wanted to branch out and try different things. So.
And how long were you at the PUC?
Just 2 years.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So what part of, did you work on rate cases or what did you?
Right. We would review the numbers behind the requests for rate increases by Pacificor and I think PGE, but also natural gas companies like Vista and Northwest. Well, I didn't do Northwest Natural. They hadn't filed for a while, but yeah.
When did you retire?
2010.
Okay. What have you been doing since then?
Oh, I've been trying to become a better pianist, but
How's that working?
Not too good. I can, yeah, it's not been too good.
Have you run for office before?
Yeah, twice. I ran for City Council of Milwaukee twice.
Okay.
One in 2016 and one in 2018.
Sorry, you won both times, or?
Oh no, I didn't. Yeah, I was up against incumbents, so it was kind of difficult.
Okay, so people call you and ask you to do things all the time. They probably call you and ask you for money, or they call you and ask you different things. So why did you respond to this request from the Taxpayer Association to run for office?
Well, also because I think the most pressing environmental problem is actually our wildfires. And so, and I saw a twofer there maybe with combining it with, closing down on crime, or maybe getting the repeat offenders of property crimes that go out and actually apply themselves and help clean up the fuel and the forest floors, so that we may have reduced the number of summertime wildfires and forest fires we have. So that was one big key. We suffered a couple of years ago, I think it was like a month-long wildfire smoke, and we were inside all of them. Yeah, so that was a big part of it.
Crazy. I remember.
Yeah.
So Rob, if you were to be elected to this seat, what would your sort of first priority? Either a bill that you would introduce, or an area of legislation that you would really want to focus on?
Highway tolling would be one of the first things.
And I assume, let me guess, you wouldn't be pushing to implement, you would be pushing to block it?
Correct. No, I would be pushing to redirect the funds, or to not do tolling, because we have enough money coming in from the gas tax and other fees to take care of our roads. Because the tolls were just to change the way people drove. They're not to expand the roads. So if you read the laws, it's just to make people change the way they're driving, And so that's ridiculous. It's why am I paying for roads that are already paid for, being told that something I already paid for, and then you're telling me how I can drive to work or how I can get to wherever, because you don't want to expand the freeways. So let's get a plan together about how we're going to take care of the freeways, expand them. Because, if we expand the freeways, then we'll cut down on the pollution. Right now, there's more pollution on the freeways because of people stuck in traffic. Less pollution driving at 65 miles an hour than there's when you're doing 5. And somehow that's getting missed, So you're worried about the environment. Let's expand our freeways so we can actually do the speed limit and give people back their time on top of it.
In the course of your work in the security business, are you in your car all day, every day, or do you do most of your work on the phone?
I'm in my car a lot. I'm not all the time. I do work from my desk a lot also, because I have to put estimates together, submittals, and that sort of thing. But I am on the road a lot.
So when the state shut down in March of 2020, the ODOT and all the local traffic agencies, transportation agencies, recorded a huge drop in travel as people were staying home. Were you out on the road during those periods?
I was. The freeways were great.
Yeah.
It was,
but
it's like you're driving in the middle of the night, and during the day it was great,
So, but the idea that the state would use tolling to essentially recreate that greatness, you just think that's wrong?
Yes. Why don't we expand the freeways to meet the traffic needs that we have, instead of saying, oh, you're going to take a side road to miss the tolls? but you're going to congest this inner city part of the roads by doing that. It's just not well thought out. Because people still have to work, people still have to get to these places, but like most people, I'm not going to pay you an extra $2 to get there when I can go another direction. I mean, because the tolls where they're placed, there's ways to get around it.
Right.
So what are you doing? You know, the people you're hitting are like interstate travel trucks. So that's another expense for your food to go up. Great. You don't think about that cost. You know, all the businesses that it affects is going to make your costs go up, and they didn't look at that at all. Besides the time, right now, you think of all the time that's lost because people sit in slow traffic. All the people that are, if you own a business, say landscaping business, your landscaping truck's sitting on the freeway for 45 minutes to an hour every day because of the traffic.
Yeah.
So that means you're paying for these guys to work, but they're not making you any money.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now you're going to pay them to take a side road where they might get into more congestion, or they might get into an accident easier because the roads are smaller. So the fees are just going to outweigh what you're trying to do.
Great.
And they wasted, now we're 4 years into this. Because I was talking about tolling back in 2018 when I was running for U.S. Congress when it started. So now they've wasted 4 years instead of just figuring out how to widen the roads, the freeways. You've wasted this time and expense to do what? To get me to change my habits? That's ridiculous.
Great, thank you. Same question for you. If you were elected, what would you want to work on right away?
Well, that'd be the top one, tolling too, because I've actually collected signatures to get this IP 41 initiative petition 41 on the ballot. It's now hung up at the Supreme Court on appeal. And one of the organizations appealing it is the Oregon Truckers Association. So I think we have to give people the right to vote on it. That's what Initiative 41 is about, is to allow people to vote on tolling if they believe it's necessary. Then they would approve it. There's potentially other cases where the people might want a tolling, and they can create new roads in the outskirts. I always thought we should build another bypass of the core of the city of Portland. That would take traffic off of the main part, I-5 and also 205. And so we could condition the tolling as to be more energy efficient cars and stuff like that, or that kind of thing. The problem with the tolling that's being proposed is that the structure, the process by which those tolls are set is not clear, and it could be conflicted with other goals of the Oregon Department of Transportation and other goals and other people that have interest in, like, they're somewhat anti-car, they label them. And so the thing could get, I just don't trust the process that we're going to use for setting the tolls. I think a better solution for our funding of the roads is probably a combination of dropping the gasoline tax and then putting an odometer reading system to supplement the gasoline tax revenue. Because the gasoline tax revenue it should start to decline because the efficiencies we're getting out of the hybrids are so great. I mean, you're talking 50% decline in gasoline consumption.
Yeah.
And so I think we need to go a balanced approach in that funding of the roads thing.
So you're an economist, right?
Right.
So, some economists talk about the concept of induced demand with transportation. You build a new lane, traffic will expand to fill the new lane. And there have been studies around the country where they've added around Houston, for instance, and around other large cities that have huge traffic problems, even worse than ours. And there have been numerous examples of that, where if you add capacity and it's free, people say, well, now I can drive more.
Right.
So I'm curious, as an economist, what you think the answer to congestion is. Is it to create new capacity? Is it to toll? I mean, Rob's told us that, why he doesn't like tolling. You've got different questions about tolling.
Yeah.
Induced demand versus change in behavior. Rob has talked about how they want to, toll to get people to drive less. So
Yeah.
tell us how you think about that.
I think that the main problem in the Portland area, and also this is other areas too that you cite, that it's population growth that's causing the lanes to fill up. It's not so much that people want to go out and drive for a couple hours to somewhere. It's that they are, it's just population growth and a failure to build a capacity to handle that population growth. And I think also we get away from diversion, the road diversion concept, if you go to an odometer reading.
Right.
You also have to maybe retain a little bit of the gasoline tax, or at least half or something like that. I don't know what the exact figure is, to discourage gas guzzling and stuff like that. So there's I guess I'm trying to do a balanced approach between the environmental concern and at the same time trying to bring more road capacity that way.
Okay. So what would you bring to the legislature? You spent a long time inside the belly of the beast in terms of transmission and thinking about the grid, and the electric grid is one of the big challenges, right? If we actually
Right.
are going to decarbonize our electric grid, do we have the grid that we need? Do we have the storage capacity? I mean, battery technology is very primitive. So I'm just wondering if you have thoughts about sort of our electrical and our energy future.
Yeah, I think the net zero concept by 2035 or 50 is just not going to happen. It's you need a lot of transmission lines, and it takes decades to build new transmission lines to these remote sites like solar farms and windmills, or wind turbines rather. And the wind turbines are got problems themselves in that they just lost a suit, a Portland company, a wind turbine company, for killing the golden eagles. Mm-hmm. And so the renewables that we're trying to put in place, they have their downsides too. They have their environmental negatives too. And it's not, we're getting presented a simple picture that this is the pure environmental way to go, when in fact it requires a lot of mining and strip mining. I've been involved in a project where they were going after the rare earth minerals that go into some of the renewables. They knocked down a whole ridge of a mountainside.
Yeah.
And so it's not clear cut. That's not clear cut the way to go. So I think we have to kind of balance the affordability and the impractical parts of that against the realities of providing a reliable electric grid. And also on that environmental side, like, if we're going to cut greenhouse emissions, I would reallocate, like, monies go in the light rail that we've had, like billions, and I would put in more dedicated network of electric bicycle paths or that kind of thing, because we're seeing a lot of innovation in the single vehicle electric bicycle and other little devices that get people around. And half the days in Oregon or the Willamette Valley is not too bad. Mm-hmm. Not too bad. So I think you can cut down emissions by building out that and reallocating money that would go to the lower used systems like light rail. I don't think it's used. The ridership is actually slightly in decline, even though they've added new lines.
Right. So Rob, how long have you lived in the district or in the Milwaukee area?
Well, I've lived in Clackamas County most of my life. I went to Rowell Junior High, which is in my district. I went to Clackamas High School before it moved out to Happy Valley for a year or so. Yeah, most of my life's been in the Milwaukee area. So
when I started the paper, which was almost 25 years ago, the legislature was in Republican hands, and your district, District 41, looked quite different from a partisan perspective. I'm curious if you were to be elected, or even as you're running in this cycle, how do you think the Republican brand. How do you think you bring that back in Clackamas County and District 41 to, I don't know, to a place where you're speaking more to what voters seem to want? How would Republicans regain the position that they held not so long ago in the district and in the state house?
Well, my goal is not to bring back the Republican Party name. My goal is for people to look at where I stand and what I'm going to do for them. Because, you know, we were in a party because it believes closest to what we do, not exactly, but closest. But it should be what the person's going to actually do. You know, if you say you're going to do something, you're going to do it. You know, and that's what I'm going to do. If I tell you I'm going to be there at 2 o'clock or be there at 1 o'clock, I'm going to be there right there at 1 or a little before, maybe a few minutes after, but that's what I'm going to do. And the same with, you know, when I win this position, it's going to be, I said I'm going to go do this stuff down in Salem. I'm going to make it happen one way or another. You know, we're going to get things fixed for people so that they aren't worried about government looking over their shoulder all the time. And I think that's the biggest problem. So whether I'm a Republican or not shouldn't be your first call in the general election. General election should be, how do I compare against the other person that I'm running against, right? The primary is where, you know, the Republicans decide who's running, you know? But the general election, it's like, where do you stand on what I believe, and what are you going to actually do? Are you going to be another one of those politicians that just blow smoke and want my vote and want my money?
Yeah.
And that's not me.
Yeah. So it'd be great if you'd each give us a minute on why you are the better candidate for this nomination. Why don't we start with you, Rob?
Man, I hate. I'm a better candidate. I'm not going to say that I'm better than Elvis. I'm going to say that I'm different. And I want people to decide on our differences, not on who's better or worse.
Okay. Well, highlight those differences for us then, please.
So the differences I see is that I'm a little more conservative about less government and more personal choice. Otherwise, Elvis and I are running right along the same page. You know, so I kind of have a hard time saying, you know, we do things different because Elvis and I are on the Public Safety Committee for the City of Milwaukee. We do a lot of stuff together, you know, so it's not like it's hard to compete against someone that, you know, you agree a lot with.
Yeah.
I don't agree with his electric bike theory. It's your own personal choice. You want to do, and I want us to put our money into the roads.
Yeah.
And not into bike lanes, because bike lanes don't pay for themselves.
Yeah.
And people that own bikes don't want to donate any money to pay for them. They say, well, it comes out of my property tax, but that's not completely true. So, you know, if they wanted to have a license their bike and pay per mile for, you know, the roads like the rest of us do, you know, I'm more willing to put bike lanes in, but until the bicyclists step up and do that, you know, I'm not for adding bike lanes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Same question for you, Elvis. How you can say if you're better, or you can say how you're different. It's up to you.
Oh, I'll say how I'm different, right?
Okay.
I like Robin, so yeah, he's probably more socially conservative than I am, but
Why do you say that?
I'm not sure.
Are you pro-choice?
Well, I'm not I'm somewhat pro-choice,
Okay.
because I think there should be like a cutoff at 6 months or something
Okay.
like that.
Okay.
I'm not sure where Rob is on that, but I've talked to my wife who said, you know, and she's explained her thought that, you know, women or the mother of the expecting or the pregnant gal she's got a lot to do with the whole thing. So I respect that, and being a guy, I don't, and I'm not even a biological father, so I have to cut a lot of slack for that, and so I'm in the middle there. But so that's how maybe a little bit more less socially conservative, and Also, I then survey my neighbors in the Ardenwell neighborhood. I've been conducting this transportation survey for the Public Safety Advisory Committee, and I get to know the electorate pretty well, and they're in a different spot than the real conservative Republican that's fighting for more individual freedom and stuff and liberties. They're a little bit more into community, and so I'm trying to bridge those two things. That's how I'm maybe different than Rob.
Okay. Who won the 2020 presidential election?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, I don't think it matters.
What doesn't matter? Who the president of the United States is?
Well, no, that's not what I mean. The decision was made by the court. Well, the courts did not want the question.
Right.
And once they said that, it was pretty much the winner was Joe Biden, because you could fight that thing. I mean, there's been questionable elections before, and so this is like all's fair in love and war, maybe, kind of thing. Okay. So now it's kind of a moot question. We're a year and a half past the thing, and I think the big question on election integrity is more about ballot harvesting, and that's the real thing, and that's where, for a long time, the public employee unions in Oregon have been very well situated on ballot harvesting, whereas the Republicans, we tend to be like individualist cats that kind of roam away and don't organize. But we don't have a pecuniary interest in the outcome of an election necessarily, so like the public employee unions do. And so I think it was really ballot harvesting that's the issue for me, about whether the public employee unions might be losing a little bit of their power with the Janus decision, and they seem to be Oregon's requiring more monies coming in from the National Party. And so maybe there's some weakening of their position that's been so dominant the last 10, 12 years.
Okay. Rob, same question for you. Who won the 2020 presidential election?
Nationally, or which state?
Yeah, nationally.
Nationally?
Yeah.
Well, President Biden's our president. How we feel about the election really doesn't matter, because the president is President Biden. Whether we agree with the results or not, or we want to argue which state won, it doesn't really matter. President Biden was sworn into office.
Okay. Just a quick question, and then we'll have one fun question that we ask all candidates. So we don't know yet, but it's likely there will be a ballot measure in November that will propose privatizing the Oregon Liquor Control Commission, which is in District 41. At least it was in District 41. I don't know if it moved out with the redraw or not. But the OLCC headquarters right there on McLaughlin.
It's still in the district.
Still in the district.
Yeah.
So, and this issue has come up a couple times before. We saw Washington privatize in 2012. Results are somewhat mixed. If it's on the ballot, if the question is, should the voters privatize the Oregon Liquor Control Commission, Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission, excuse me, how will you vote? First to you, Ellis.
I'm okay with legalizing grocery stores having the alcohol, but the cannabis, no.
Right. So yeah, I'm more interested in the liquor.
Yeah, liquor.
So you've worked for the BPA, which in a way is sort of the kind of an analog. It's a state control, federal government control
right.
of a. So do you see, did you take anything from your experience in the utility world, either at the PUC or from the BPA, that says government doesn't do as well as the private sector and the government shouldn't be in the liquor business? Or why do you think that grocery stores should sell liquor?
Well, I think, I'm not really that versed in the liquor question to begin with, but I do know that what happens with government a lot of times is if you have a function, your primary function or your mission, over time it gets corrupted by other goals.
Mission creep.
Mission creep.
Yeah.
And then you are kind of meandering around, not really delivering a specific product for a best price.
Yeah.
So that's the main problem I got with
Okay.
our government.
Rob, how about you? Would you privatize the OLCC?
I would, but not the cannabis side of it.
Right. So booze in liquor stores, leave cannabis where it is.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Can you ask our last question? Because I always get it wrong.
So we've been asking everybody, this has changed over the course of the last couple of weeks because numbers are on the rise again, but was there a point during the pandemic when it felt to you like it was over? Like this, we were seeing the light again, there was hope. Was there an experience that you were like, oh, this is great, life's getting back to normal? One of our editors said it's when he went to a Blazers game and didn't have to wear a mask. And he just felt like, oh my God, life's coming back to normal. Other people say, I got to see my family or my aged, grandmother for the first time because she's been locked away, right? Mm-hmm. Because of COVID. Was there anything that you had that experience? Maybe start with Rob.
When I was in Arizona back in November, and I didn't have to wear masks. I think that Oregon has way overstepped its bounds on requiring masks. There's been many studies that have proved that masks are not effective and they don't give the result they were looking for. So, like I said, when I had to go to another state to get my freedom to be able to breathe freely, that's when I felt, it was over, and I was hoping our government here in Oregon would figure it out, but they didn't, and it took them a long time to do it.
Mm.
Great, thanks.
Oh, I don't really have any big moment where it was that exciting. I mean, I think it was back in summer 2020. I was able to go in my local Safeway and go shopping without a mask. That was pretty nice. Mm. But to this day, my wife is really still batting down the hatches. Mm.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you both for your time.
Well, thank you.
My apologies for being a little bit late, and appreciate it.
Thanks.